You're tuned in to Career Currency with Kareem Perez, a podcast for people who are interested in unlocking their potential and increasing their professional value. Here's your host, Kareem Perez.
Okay, welcome everybody to another episode of the Career Currency Podcast, the podcast for people who are interested in unlocking their potential and increasing their professional value. We bring you the best marketers, influencers, brand builders in the game who share career advice on how to attract opportunities, make more money, and thrive in the digital economy. I'm your host, Kareem Perez, founder of The Tech Effect, professor, mentor, and marketing communications leader. Okay, today's guest came with the energy today, y'all. Came with the giveaways too. Okay, she's the founder of the Mentorship Corner, one of my favorite topics, something I believe is very important, mentorship. She's the founder of the Mentorship Corner, a structured, ready-to-implement system designed to help companies build impactful, scalable mentorship programs. We got some of the materials right here in the flesh, okay? And she's the author of the Mentorship Workbook, 12-module guide filled with learning objectives, discussion prompts, practical exercises, book recommendations, which you know we're going to talk about that, and equipping both mentors and mentees to grow with intention and confidence. Melonie de Guzman, thank you for pulling up. Yo, thank you for pulling up. How are you?
I am good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm chilling. I'm excited to have you in the building. And, you know, the only thing I could think of was like mentorship is one of my favorite topics. It's something that's so important in life, in career, and I just love the work that you do. I love the posts that you put out. So I'm really excited to talk to you. So why don't you give us, you know, the how it started versus how it's going.
All right.
So talk a little bit about how you started, your career, your business, and then how it's going now.
All right. So how it started. So I was a corporate girly for over 15 years, project management in digital media and tech, but I was always volunteering my time. And I found myself on the companies like ERGs, the Employees Resource Groups. Okay. And through there, I would help plan like mentorship programs, book clubs, your lunch and learns, your workshops, your coffee chats, right? And so now where I am now is that I took a step away from corporate and I created a suite of products and services that allow companies to offer those same programs, but now they don't have to depend on their employees to do the mental load of the planning, the creating, the executing, the upkeeping of any of that. They can just enjoy it.
That's amazing. So it's plug and play.
Plug and play.
Okay, so I want to talk about that a little bit. So you're working, you have your regular duties, right? But now you're doing this extra stuff. It really sounds to me like the glue of the organization, bringing people together, different events, different connection points. Where did that come from? Was that like out of a need when you were in these spaces to say, hey, we don't have anything? Was that more like a personal thing, or was it more like the company saying, hey, we need to implement something like this?
So once I started working or volunteering on the company's ERGs, it was like my first time like experiencing it. So it was always about mentorships. It was always kind of like, what can we offer our employees to help them with their career growth that we can do, like, you know, during the workday. Right. And at first, I thought maybe it was a one-off. It was at one company, and I was like, okay, because it was a lot of work. And then I went to another company, and it was the same thing. It was all volunteer-based. And then I went to another company, and it was the same thing. It was volunteer-based. And I was like, you know what? And I see the scramble of people, like, you know, sending those Slack messages, like, who read the whole book? Who can lead this book launch or like whatnot, right? And so I was like, you know what? I love this kind of stuff. It always gives me energy. I would do it anyways, and so I did.
That's amazing. And then did you have mentors when you started your career and coming up? Is that part of the reason?
Yeah. So I started off having mentors, being a mentor myself, and then creating mentorship programs for the companies I was working with. So it was a slow evolution. During the pandemic, I mentored for a lot of individual, like Girls in Tech, women in film and television, like all of those little communities. And I really loved it. And I found that I gained energy whenever I would be talking to like the mentee and learning more about them and their lived experiences. And there is something great there. So I really wanted to make sure that people have access to it. And that was also one of the reasons.
Wow. Okay. Love that. Access. So what's one of the biggest misconceptions that people have about what mentorship is supposed to look like?
I think that when people think about what mentorship is that they think it's just long-term relationship between someone who is much more senior giving their sage advice to someone more junior and like, that's it. It's very professional. Right? But the thing is that mentorship can take many forms because the end goal is career growth, right? So it could be a one-off conversation that you have with someone that you're working through a problem. It could be in a group setting, and I love this one. It could be in a group setting where you're hearing different perspectives and you guys can all talk about it. And it can even be a series of informal relationships that you have, where you have the understanding that, hey, if need be, can I hit you up with some advice because like you've been there and you can help me like navigate through this workplace. So and what I love about it is that like formal mentorship isn't accessible to everyone. So the ways like, the one-off coffee chats or the group mentorships or like, your little board of directors, like, for advice that you can go to, as long as like, there's a mutual understanding that you're there for each other for career growth, that's what counts. And that's mentorship.
Okay, so the workbook.
The workbook, yes.
The mentorship workbook. It turns mentorship into a 12-session journey.
Yes.
Right? Why is consistency and intentional conversation so underrated when it comes to career growth?
That's consistency and being intentional, right?
Yeah.
So like with anything, when you're consistent and intentional with it, you're going to reach your goals faster. Right. So if you think about this, like say if you go to the gym, right?
Yeah.
And say
Been
if you
slacking a little bit.
Well, but like, say if you go to the gym, you go once in a while, we love that. You get your sweat on, like it's all good. But compared to the person who goes consistently, compared to the person who follows a program or who has a set schedule of classes they go to, who's counting the progressive overload, there's no everyone knows what their priority is, right? And we live in a time where we can, we're no longer working at one company for the rest of our lives.
Right.
So we can't coast anymore. We're going to be selling ourselves like every 2 or 3 years. So that being intentional and consistent really, really matters in this day and age, right?
And how do you feel like a lot of people when they join companies, they don't really think about that, or do they? Or people I guess, in my experience, in talking to people and even my personal experience, it's more like you're just trying to get the job done, right? So you're trying to maybe climb the ladder a little bit. You're trying to get that recognition from your peers and from the organization to say, oh, you're doing a good job, but you're not consistent and intentional about getting the support you need or the development. Did you find that as well, like when you started off, or were you always more like consistent and intentional with finding people to help you boost to the next level?
I think that when I came to the realization that that people were open to offering help. Right? So before I would be shy to ask for it. I would be kind of like, oh, am I allowed to ask this question? Am I allowed to I don't want to overstep or anything like that. Or I don't want to sound silly. Right? But once I realized, especially by I started going to a lot of women in tech type of events, that they were just overflowing with people who are like, let me help you. Let me tell you my story. And it was just kind of like a snowball effect of, hey, this is amazing. And I tell you, by doing that, not necessarily, because I used to chase like certifications and diplomas and all that stuff, right? Which is part of it. You have to keep yourself upskilled, right? Especially in this this day and age. But the missing part that I was doing was like the networking or the networking, or even like letting people know who I was and what I had to offer.
Right. Amazing. Okay, so in your experience, what separates a feel-good mentor from one who actually moves the needle in someone's career, right? Because a lot of times the whole definition of mentorship, like you said, it's, okay, I have a mentor now. We talk, we share different ideas and advice, but I'm not really getting anything. I'm not really getting a promotion or getting the job. So yeah, what separates from a mentor perspective in terms of what they do and how they support that actually helps somebody move, change, grow, versus maybe just like performative or casual conversation style?
Well, first off, that feel good part of the mentorship, I love that.
Okay.
I love that. I love being your hype person. I love being your cheerleader,
hype me
right?
up.
Because I really do believe that a lot of people, they don't see how awesome they are, and that imposter syndrome hits hard. So that feel goodness will kind of help them push through to get to that confidence.
Okay.
But for mentors, what they have to remember is that you can take that, but when you pair that with action, that's where we keep the momentum going, and that's a responsibility of the mentor, to make sure that the momentum just keeps on going. So it's like offering a different perspective. It's asking those leading questions, but also letting them know, it's like, hey, like say for example, if they achieve something great and fantastic, yes, absolutely celebrate with them, but then give them the space to like analyze it. Give them the space, like, hey, let's look at this. How can we repeat this? Like, what can we do again? What can we learn from it? Like, what didn't we like that we want to try out next time, right? You're moving that, and you're helping with that momentum with that career, because there are things that, again, maybe they're not thinking about because they're so like in the weeds in the work.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. Okay, so yeah, just to summarize that, the feel good part, the
Amazing.
hype up part,
Yes.
that's good, but you pair that with action, and then in between the hype moments, you have the move the dial piece. So what are some signs that mentorship is no longer serving someone, and how do mentees handle that, right? Because sometimes, in my experience, there's never a defined. There's usually a beginning, which is like, okay, I want a mentor, I want you to help me, but it kind of drags on. There's no necessary ending or like end point. So what are some of the signs? Like if I'm a mentee, I have a mentor, what are signs like it's time to move on, or maybe get a different mentor?
Yeah. I think that like from my experience, at the workplaces, there usually is like an end date, and it kind of just feels like a cliff that just all of a sudden you never hear from them again, right?
Okay.
But if you're in one of those open-ended mentorship relationships, and it kind of just peters off, I never really think of it as like no longer serving someone. It's just that it served this purpose for the moment of where you are in your career, right? But as with like all relationships, if you nurture the relationship, yeah, you may not have like a formal mentor anymore, but you have a friend, you have an ally, you have a sponsor for like maybe future opportunities like down the road, and the doors never close. Like you spent time building that relationship. Like don't let it fall off a cliff.
I gotta hit up some of my mentees.
Yeah, for sure.
Talk to me in a while.
There we go.
Okay, so let's talk about mentorship as a culture strategy, right? Because like you mentioned, or as I talked about in your bio, it's about equipping organizations with the tools to have this embedded as part of their culture. So a lot of time organizations, they do it, but they don't really do it.
Yeah.
So why do so many workplace mentorship initiatives fail to like stick or scale? What's really missing? Like, what are some of the key things they miss when they implement mentorship programs?
So first off, like whenever a mentorship program is being built, you always start with the best intentions, right?
Of course, yeah.
But in workplaces, what you have to remember is that it's usually volunteer-led. So it's either by enthusiastic employees or ERG leaders who are volunteering their time to create these programs, but without the dedicated time or resources to do so. And without those, it makes it hard to make an impactful like program, right? And then also with that, I find that most mentorship programs, especially in the workplace, they focus a lot on pairing, right? Which is important. Like pairing the mentor and the mentee, absolutely like a key component of a successful mentorship program. But that means that the rest of it, and what I've seen is that maybe the mentor and the mentee are given a list of topics to discuss, and maybe like an expectation on how often you should meet and where you should meet and things like that, right? The logistics of it.
Right.
But that means that the rest of the program is now on the backs of all the mentors and the mentees to figure it out. So that means that all the mentees are going in and they're the ones who are supposed to be asking the questions. But as I said before, like even myself, like what questions am I allowed to ask? Like, I don't want to seem silly asking these questions. Like what, we work in the same place. What happens if they know the coworker that I'm talking about, that I'm complaining about? Like what's happening here, right? And then also another component that I think is very important is mentorship training, right? Because again, best of intentions as a mentor, but sometimes I need to check my biases. Sometimes I need to be reminded to do the active listening, to remember that I am not supposed to be there just as like a talking head to the person, because the person across the table from me have their own lived experiences. And I have to ask those questions in order to guide them. Right. So that type of training also is important. So
have you received this type of training?
Yeah, I'm certified in this type of training now because I saw the gap and I just did it.
Yeah. And then you mentioned that being a part of a lot of different organizations. Mm-hmm. So like when you're a part of them, do they talk about this or did they teach this?
No, I found that that was a component that was missing when I'm talking about the training, right?
Yeah, the training, the mentor who's supporting the mentees, right? Yeah.
Exactly, because I would get together with like other mentors and we would just like talk about it. And I would just sit there because maybe I have a couple more like years experience or whatnot. And I'll be like, oh, active listening here, this is the definition. Or like asking leading questions, like, it was just like open-ended and things like that. Or reminding them that, hey, like, people have different lived experiences, especially if they're from different cultures and backgrounds and everything like that. Like you can't project your, like, what you would do without considering that part of their environment.
Yeah, that's so interesting.
Right. Yeah.
That's so interesting. I want to go back to the pairing part.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of like the most common piece that you said, right? So how important is that? Like in terms of matching people based on their interest or their skills, or like, is that absolutely necessary or?
I think that it really depends. It depends on how eager and open the mentors are and eager and open the mentees are, right? Like, I'm not sure if, like, say, for example, if there are some employees that take part of the mentorship program, just maybe if it could get them a little bit more, marks on their year-end review, right? Like, if you're doing it just to check a box. But if they're really enthusiastic about it, like, I'm pretty sure that they'll take the initiative to make it something really great. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to the pairing, I always like to have people to have choices, like, choices of like what are you looking for a mentor that will help you reach your goals or navigate through going or like climbing that ladder, or are you looking for someone to help with confidence, right? And then kind of helping pair with that. The pairing part, very big, very complicated.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Okay, so how can leaders intentionally design mentorship to support equity and inclusion, not just development?
Okay, so
because you talked about lived experience.
Yes.
And that after it's paired in terms of interest, there's a whole nother layer.
Equity inclusion. That's what you asked, right? Yeah. So absolutely non-negotiable. You can't ignore it, right? In this day and age. And the first thing to do is just kind of look around and like who's here and who's missing, right?
Right.
And have you ever heard of the saying, and I'm sure you have, is that, say, for example, like women or people of color are over-mentored but under-sponsored?
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
So let's. I'll get back to that, but I'm just laying it down right now.
Okay.
So what I've noticed is that when I am running mentorship programs for companies, or like working with them to facilitate, the people who show up as volunteers to like help with the mentorship program, or the ones who are raising their hand to be mentors, or the ones in the room saying, "Hey, I need a mentor. I need help." Right? They're usually from like the minority groups, the women, the people of color, the LGBTQ plus communities, right? They're the ones who are stepping in saying, I want to help or I want to be helped. Like they're in the room. But what I also found was that the people who are from the demographic that are usually part of the senior leadership and C-suite roles, they're not in the room. They're not taking part of the mentorship programs. They're not there as mentors. And that's simply because they already have avenues and networks that they've always had because the system was made for them.
Right.
Right? But the thing is that if they are not in the room, the mentees miss out on those perspectives, on that experience, on that sponsorships, because they're the ones who are actually in the room, right? And then as leaders, if you're not there as leaders, you miss out on like learning about the lived experiences of people who aren't like you, like in the workforce, that can only make you a better leader in this diverse workplace, right? So yeah, so that is one part of it. The second part, and I mentioned this before, is about training. Right, so
Okay.
train the mentors in biases, train the mentors in all of the things, so that they have an arsenal of tools to take them and to help them lead those who want to be led. Right, and then the third part is make it part of the program. So we talked before about how usually you're given a list of topics. Make those topics talk about bias and barriers. Make the topics talking about microaggressions in the workplace, right? And then so therefore people are talking about it. It removes the stigma out of it. It educates people. And then there you go. It's not just about development. It's about learning about equity and yeah.
And you said you're going to come back to the over-mentored and under-sponsored.
Well, what I'm alluding to is that like over-mentored, yes, because we're all in the room and we're like, yes, let's mentor, let's help out. Mentees are there, they're eager to learn, but that missing part of the community are those who don't need it, right? So we have to bring them in so they can mentor the people so that they can help open those doors.
Right.
Yeah.
So the people who are missing, which is the senior leaders and everything, who can actually help to move the dial,
Absolutely.
are not there. Okay, so let's talk metrics a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, what metrics or signals could HR leaders track to see if the mentorship culture is actually driving impact, right? So a lot of, when it comes to diversity, when it comes to mentorship, when it comes to training, learning, it's like kind of seen as a nice to have because it doesn't necessarily impact the bottom line per se. But what what metrics or signals, if you're implementing a program or if you're like part of the HR team that's saying, hey, we need this, how would you track that to kind of like showcase the result?
Yeah. So there are. So first, are people showing up? Like that's your baseline, right? Like do people want this? Are they showing up? And so. And also the thing is that you should be measuring before, during, and after. If you're just doing it after, you're already too late. You missed the boat already, right? So it's like send out an anonymous survey to your mentors and your mentees during the program and asking them like, what's going well, what isn't, what would you change? But I would also be interested of asking their bosses, of both the mentees and the mentors, like how, like from their point of view, how is their performance now? Like, are they showing up more in the boardroom? Are they taking up more leadership skills, right? Like, what is the outcome of that? Okay. And then quantitatively, you're looking at, hey, like, sign up, repeat people, drop off rates, right? The basics. But your question is like, how can you tell if it's actually doing well? And again, I would like to go back with like most of these mentorship programs are volunteer led and like the turnover is high. But in the ideal world, I would love to track the mentorship to the employee while they're in the workplace. Are they being like considered for leadership positions and promotions? Are they considered a thought leader? What is their involvement in the industry outside of their workplace, but like, inside the industry? Are they scoring higher on their year-end evaluation? Like, is it actually working? And then so therefore, if you can trace that data back into mentorship and say to your new hires, like, hey, we have a mentorship program and 95% of them score like, above expectations on their yearly review, I'm sure you're going to have a lineup up the door, right? Yeah.
You have more? You have more?
No, that's it. Yeah.
No, I was really loving that. That's really good. Okay, you kind of caught me off guard there. So what was I gonna say? Yeah, I was gonna kind of go back to what you said around. Do you think it's like a talent attraction strategy as well?
Yeah, absolutely.
To have that type of training embedded into the culture?
Yeah, and I think that it's never really talked about. It's never really on the list of like your job description and like reasons why to work at this company when you go to it. But every company I've been to, like I worked for or like like partner with, like the employees are asking for these types of things. They're looking for ways to level up. They're looking for ways to like network. So it may not be like front of line, but maybe it should be, right? And that's another thing where like, part of a successful mentorship is that I remember at one company that I was working for, like I had to dig through the archives to even realize that they had a mentorship program. And I was like, what? Like, where is this? Like, 25 clicks later, I finally got to that page, right? And then that's why I was saying that it should be part of the onboarding to let them know we are here, we want to support your career growth. And that goes along with retention at the company. And I'm sure companies want that.
Right. And then, so you talked a lot about the biggest challenges is volunteer led, right? So you're there, you're doing your job, and in your extra time or whatever time you have, you're putting effort to this initiative. How should it be? Like, do you think it should be employee led, but they should have, a percentage of their day carved out? So it's like 70% doing my job, 30% doing mentorship? Or do you think maybe like it should be a dedicated role, position, department?
It would be amazing if there was like it. Some companies do have this. I believe they're called L&D, learning and development departments, right? So some do. So I would like to see it like fall there. But the thing is that usually they're stretched thin as it is. So taking the time to make something really impactful takes a lot of time. And on the flip side, what I noticed was that when I was working at companies and I was volunteering on these ERGs, and I bring up the year-end review as like a fun little teaser, right? And I go in there and I was like, yeah, like, it's a mentorship program and like, all this stuff for women in tech, amazing. Like I got this, but it didn't count towards my work in the department because it wasn't work for my department. Right. So I didn't get any of the like I got accolades as in like like thank you very much,
like recognition,
but it wasn't. It had no impact on my actual like job itself. Right. And then that's where I saw. I was like, okay, well, if all of these, and I said like most likely it is the people of minority communities who are working on these, who are participating in them. I want to take the mental load off so they can enjoy it, so they can have it, but they don't have to worry about creating something, right?
Interesting. Very interesting. Side question.
Of course.
What's your background?
Filipino.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Got you.
What's your background?
Half Jamaican, half Trini.
Ah, there you go.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. Imposter syndrome.
Yes.
Shows up at every career stage, right? Beginning, middle, doesn't really matter. How do you help people to navigate this? So somebody comes to you, they're afraid to post something, or like you said, in the workplace, they're afraid to ask certain questions. They feel like in a boardroom, I'm this junior person. Why should I say something? How would you approach, or how do you approach? Because I know you help Yeah, I know this is something
imposter
that you-
syndrome is a
yeah.
hot topic, right? And I have a love-hate relationship with it, right? Because really it's just a dialogue in your own head.
Right.
But so the first thing I do is normalize it, and I try to reframe it. And I was like, okay, if you're feeling this imposter syndrome, that tells me as your mentor that you just care about it. You care about it, and that's a good sign. It's a good thing. And we're talking about career growth. It's a good thing to care about your career. Right, so take it as a positive, and there are a couple of things that I like to work with them on, and that is their what is it rooted in? So I really believe that imposter syndrome is rooted in the lack of confidence. Okay. So how do you work on that lack of confidence? And the one thing I have is a couple of tools and little activities that I work with them. And one of them is a hype list. Right.
Okay.
So it's exactly how it hears. It's basically it's a document that you create that every single win, accolade, high five,
me up.
just whatever, throughout your career, that whenever they have those self-doubts that they can open it, because some people are very data driven, right? They need that proof.
Right,
And it's here's that proof that you are an awesome person. Because sometimes they just get too in the weeds and they don't see how awesome they are, right? And then there is we work through it because we have to identify. I was okay, is this a lack of confidence, or is there a skill gap? And if there's a skill gap, no problem, go learn. It's I don't have any doubt that people who seek out mentorship, they're also active learners. So go learn it. If you are afraid of public speaking, the only way you're going to get better at it is if you keep on talking, right? Exactly. And also, there's another thing. What was I saying? There's another thing is that, say, for example, imposter syndrome. Sometimes imposter syndrome, the biases in the workplace can feed into it, right? So if I apply for a job internally, the next level up, and even though I check everything off, and I was hey, I am I want to apply for this, but they're telling me no, and then I was oh, I was an imposter earlier. They caught me. Right? But is it that, or are we also navigating through biases in the workplace? Right? So there's also that in it. And one of the other questions I love to ask, and this is more kind of a mindset thing, is that think of someone who you admire, or just qualities of maybe a couple people, and what would they do? Right? What would a confident person do in this situation? And then go borrow from that. No one knows, it's in your mind, right? Borrow from that, because action leads to confidence. You can't do something and then expect to, you can't feel confident and then expect to do it afterwards, right? You have to do the action first, and through the actions, you'll build up that confidence.
Oh man, so many keys. So what are some other tools or mindset shifts that you recommend to somebody struggling with confidence in the workplace?
That is, so we have the hype list, right?
Okay, yeah.
And then we have the what would a confident person do in this situation? But also kind of just, you have to hype yourself up. You have to believe yourself, right? If you have all the data in front of you, why not? We're living in a time where it is shoot your shot. What's the worst that could happen? Lay out the worst case scenario. You go up and you maybe stutter, public speaking, for example. You stutter a little bit. You forget what you're going to say. No one's going to remember. It's fine. Don't worry about it. It's not that serious. It's not that. It's not that deep. It's not that serious, right? If you do something wrong, just go apologize, own up for it. Especially mentees, they're usually in their early careers, right? No one expects them to have all the answers. They're not the gurus in the room, right? So ask the questions. It's fine.
Stay curious and don't be so self-critical. Right. Yeah, that's really good. So what's the connection between confidence and leadership, especially for women or marginalized professionals?
confidence and leadership, right?
Yeah.
So there's definitely a correlation between confidence and leadership, but it also depends on who's portraying it, right? So for those who are currently like in the C-suite and in those leadership roles, it may be seen as like a strength, like, as a power. But for women and the people who are in minority communities, we may be seen as like cold or aggressive. Right? And so that is something that we have to navigate to. Or on the flip side, and this is something that I've dealt with many times, that I was like, okay, where I've been told that I've been too nice for leadership, regardless of how like great my projects were going, and regardless how happy my stakeholders were, or my teams were, my projects were going. Like many times, you're like, no, you're too nice for leadership.
Like too nice in the context of what, to other people, or just too nice of a person?
Too nice in general to other people. Like you're saying hi to everyone in the morning. I was like, of course I am. I was like, I have a 9:15 stand up. No one wants to be there, so I'm going to be the sunshine in the room to hype them up for the rest of the day, right? Like it's again, it's not that deep. Let your co-workers be happy, right? And then I had to take a step back and wondering, I was like, okay, if I want to climb this ladder into leadership, but if that means that I have to not be nice, and that's a core value of mine, like, do I want to do that? Right. And the answer was like, what, maybe not. So here we are.
Yeah, that's like one of the best pieces of advice I got from one of my mentors is when I got promoted and I had to manage people that I used to work with. That's what he told me. He said, because that's what I said. What should I do different?
Yeah.
How should I change? What do I need to do? And he's like, don't do any, stay true to your values, do the same thing.
That's amazing
you've always
advice.
been doing.
I love that so much.
I never forgot about that.
No, that's so good.
And I guess that was part of the imposter syndrome, because I'm like, oh, who am I to be managing people either senior than me or older than me or more experienced than me? I wanted to kind of like shift a little bit towards some of the organizations and some of the things you're involved with, because I know you're involved in a few different organizations, right?
Yeah.
So can you just talk about them? Like, because a lot of times people, they're looking for these different communities and places where they can find mentors, whether it's casual, formal. And I know you're a part of a few different ones. You mentioned a few.
Yeah.
So yeah, can you just talk about them? I'm just really interested.
All right. So let me see. So I co-founded Rogers Women in Tech. So I'm not sure if it's still there, right? Because but I co-founded Rogers Women in Tech about 5 years ago. I was part of the programming committee of Women in Film and Television, because I was on always the digital media side of broadcast, so CTV, TSN, your Sportsnet, et cetera. So I was always the digital liaison for the programming committee there. So that is a membership-based community if you're in television or in film. There is the Women Tech Network, and they are a global, mainly online community, and they support women in tech all over. And they have a online mentorship program. They also have a yearly summit. But during that summit, they also have like in-person events at like here in Toronto even that you can go to if you're a member of the Women Tech Network. There is what are other ones? The AI Collective. So AI Collective, I'm a founding member there. That one is brand new, and that is, it started out in Silicon Valley, but they are expanding worldwide. There's one here in Toronto, and they have a bunch of events for people to learn about AI. And then I guess the biggest one is Lean In. So I'm the director of events at Lean In Canada. Lean In comes from Lean In org that was founded by Sheryl Sandberg. And I always say that, Sheryl Sandberg, she was the OG woman in tech. Like, she wrote the book back in, I believe it's like 2011, 2012, around there, about being a woman in tech in Silicon Valley, because she was like the one of the first like CEOs of Meta, Facebook, Instagram, right? So she wrote about it, and the first time I read that book was the first time I've ever felt seen, right? Because I just thought, especially as about being a woman in tech in these departments full of men, is that you just think it's normal and you don't know any different because this is where you grew up, right? And then you read about it, you're like, oh, and this isn't like, it shouldn't be this way,
Right,
right? Like,
oh,
I was
shoot,
like,
yeah,
oh, okay,
yeah.
here we go. So that really kind of helps snowball all of it. But you can, and there's also Monday Girl. Monday Girl is another great community, right? So I'm a member over there of Monday Girl too. I love those girls.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they are out there if you look. And the best way to start is just go on Eventbrite and check out, like, just type it in, like, networking, or like, whatever industry that you're in, whether like, you be a real estate agent, like, healthcare and marketing, anything. There are events out there for you. And then usually that will connect you to people, and then it just goes forward from there.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Glad.
And if there isn't one, go make one. Why not?
Love that. Okay, I wanted to ask you,
Yeah.
do you have any stories that are personal to you? I've met a few of your mentees.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I think you brought a few to the cookout.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And
for sure. I love them.
Yeah, and I follow them. And do you have any like stories of impact through your mentees that you've seen them grow into like certain positions, or, just like personal stories that are close to your heart that
you know what? So if I've ever been your mentor, I'm keeping a close eye on you. Like, I'm seeing what you're doing. Like, so it is, I'm just so proud of all of them. Like, the way that they have stepped into their value, they realize what their worth is. They know what their what I said about, like, what their values are, right? And then sticking to it, just seeing that happen is an absolute win, because I remember being their age and just conforming. Like, I've had so many plaid shirts working with developers, right? Like, it's like, it is like, I was just like, I guess this is my uniform now, like, put on the plaid shirt, like, here we go. No, I love them. But just seeing them step into themselves, and then also seeing them now become mentors to other people in their communities. My work is done. Priceless. Absolutely.
Oh, that's
I
amazing.
got me tearing up
That's
there.
amazing.
Jesus.
That's amazing. Okay, switching gears now.
Yeah.
Need some hot takes from you.
Okay.
All right.
Oh, jeez.
Favorite food?
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. So, like, I don't want to say you had to eat one dish for the rest of your life per se, but yeah, what is your favorite dish if you had to choose?
Okay. So my favorite dish, if I had to choose, would probably be my dad's adobo.
Okay.
And adobo is a Filipino dish of, like, braised meat. Very delicious. You eat it over rice. Fantastic. If you're ever in Seafood City, like, go try it out. Like,
Where's that?
Seafood City is a grocery store. It's a Filipino grocery store.
Okay.
Over by Eglinton somewhere.
Nice,
Somewhere over there. Yeah. And others, like, you can have it as, like, chicken or pork. Like, it's great.
Right.
Yeah,
And when's the last time you've been to Philippines?
I've never
You've
been.
never been?
And I was right there.
Okay.
I was right there for so long, right? Yeah. I've never
okay.
been. It was one of those situations where, like, I could have gone because I was traveling in that area for a bit, but I felt that as my first time going to the Philippines,
You need a dedicated.
no, I had to go with family. I had to go, like, I had to go to at least my sister, right? Like, for that, because my sister's never been either, right? So that it feels more of that has to be a family moment to go to, like, the motherland, right?
Yeah, for sure. All right, cool. Speaking of travel,
Yes.
so I know you'll be touring sometimes. What's your favorite spot?
Oh my goodness. So the places I traveled, I spent 2 months in Thailand, 1 month in Vietnam, and 2 months in Paris. And I cannot give you a favorite. And I refuse to. But I'll tell you what I love by each of them.
That's fine.
There you go. Thailand was just perfect. As a solo, like, traveler, you felt safe. Everything was convenient. Like, it was easy to navigate around. And basically, it's as beautiful as you think it is. It's beaches and pad thai at every corner for, like, for $1. And it's amazing. And Vietnam is so beautiful, but I did not expect to love Vietnam food more than Thai food.
Okay.
And I was like, oh my goodness. So I did, one of the key things I did were cooking classes and food tours when I was out. Like, absolutely, right?
Yeah.
And then so eating all of these things, and they're not the stuff that you find at the restaurants here and in Vietnamese restaurants. Like it's over the like the banh mi sandwiches or the pho, right? But it's all these dishes, and I was like, my Lord, like this is delicious. So there's that aspects, and I've never seen such a beautiful sunrise in my life ever before, like over in Vietnam.
Nice.
It was absolutely beautiful. And now Paris has now a heavy piece of my heart. So something about me is that I love, like, you know, when you do those introductions, like, hey, introduce yourself, like in a fun way.
Right.
Mine is, hi, I'm a Canadian-born, Italian-raised, French-speaking Filipino. So I grew up in French immersion, but that was over 20 years ago, right? So I was able to go back to Paris and get my French back. And that was just an amazing, amazing thing that happened where I was like, oh my God, I'm spending like a summer in Paris.
Right.
Cherry on top was during the Olympics, right? And I was speaking French and everyone was so nice. They clocked me as a Canadian like that, for sure. They're like, Canadien. I was like, yes, oui, bonjour. Right? Yeah.
Okay,
But
cool.
I hope to visit a lot more places. Philippines is absolutely one of them.
That's good. Thank you. Never been to Paris, never been to Vietnam, never been to Thailand, actually.
There you go.
Favorite app?
What's my favorite app? Oh, I don't want to say anything like TikTok or anything like that, though. That is like a form of entertainment right now. Favorite app? Like, I spend so much time on social media. Like, it's really the TikToks, the Instagrams, the LinkedIn that I'm usually go to. I'm somewhat emotionally attached to those LinkedIn games. Have you played them yet?
I have not.
Oh my goodness.
I always wondered if people play those.
Oh my God.
Really?
Every single day. I have a streak. Like,
Oh,
you know,
really, eh?
Yeah, they just introduced Sudoku like 2 days ago. You had to like update the app. I was so excited. Anyway, so
Okay.
maybe it's LinkedIn. Oh, that makes me sound like such a geek.
That's all good. That's all good.
Okay. Well, one second. What's yours?
Well, when you mentioned streak, Duolingo.
Okay.
Yeah,
There, what are you?
yeah.
What are you learning?
French. French,
so
yeah. So I've been
Paris
studying
is calling.
French, yeah. And I'm 164-day streak right now.
Congratulations. That's a big deal.
But it's actually pretty cool because they have French. They have obviously different languages, but now they introduce math. They introduce chess.
No
Yeah, so they have
way.
like you
I
can
didn't
learn
know
chess
that.
moves and stuff like that. Yeah, so pretty cool.
Okay, I'm gonna go check that out.
Recommended book.
Recommended book. Okay, so we're talking like those productivity books or things like that. So my go-to for those is like Atomic Habits is your one. Angela Duckworth's her Grit,
yeah,
is another one. Never Split the Difference. Lean In, I have to say that.
Okay.
What other books? Steal Like an Artist is really good, especially if you're into creating content.
Okay.
There's that one. Let me see what else. Yeah, those are my 12-week year. I've been running my
Okay.
life like a 12-week year, like since January, and it's been making moves, like keeping me accountable. I love that. So yeah, those are kind of like my top ones that I always go to.
Okay. there's
Oh,
a couple-
Artist Way, The Artist Way also. Have you ever heard of that one?
I haven't. There's a couple in there. I haven't. The 12-week year.
Yeah.
I haven't heard that one.
Okay.
Yeah, a couple in there. I gotta.
Yeah, check it out. Yeah,
Yeah.
The Artist Way is very much of a finding your inner creative person, right? Because we were stripped of it so at a young age,
big,
where
yeah, that's a big
they
one.
took away the crayons and gave us a calculator.
Yeah,
right?
that's a big one.
Yeah,
That's a big one. Word of advice.
Do it scared.
Do it scared.
Just do it. Like, it is you really have to kind of, there's something about action that gives you the momentum. And it is with that where that's the real change goes, right? And I really love, like, if you're scared of doing something, one of the activities that I do myself is that, and this is what I learned from The Artist's Way, is one of them. And then they give you the same lesson in like the 5 a.m. club also, is journaling, where you're just journaling and you're working through, and it is insane about how much pours onto the paper where you can learn about yourself. And then you can create those solutions for yourself just by journaling.
Okay. Yeah. That's it. That's the last one.
That's the last one?
Yeah, that was the grand finale. But if you wanted to plug the workbook or plug your program, maybe tell us a little bit more about that, where people could find it, what they can expect or what they can purchase.
Perfect. So the Mentorship Corner, that is the company. And basically, as we said at the very beginning, is that I provide products and services for companies so that they can run programs such as mentorship. And then this is the book that goes along with it. Also book clubs, workshops, anything like that, to take the mental load off their employees so that they can just focus on the work, right? But also what I did with the Mentorship Workbook is that I white labeled it. So if your company would like to put their colors and their logos on it, if they don't want 12 weeks, that they only want 6, and they want to pick and choose what topics they like, let's have a conversation. We can make that happen. I am here to make it easier for the companies to run whatever mentorship program that they need at the capacity that they have.
Okay, well, there you have it, y'all. Melonie de Guzman, the Mentorship Corner, the Mentorship Workbook. She gave you so much keys and advice around how your organization can implement mentorship into the culture to improve employee satisfaction, talent retention, just overall vibe. Hype me up, give me something to be proud of. Give me something to, don't be so critical on yourself. Celebrate your wins. And I really, really, really love what you said about just championing other people, getting them excited about, their careers and making moves and taking the next step. And partnering that hype with action, so that you can see the results and you can see the impact. So I'm deeply touched by this conversation. I'm so excited for you and your work, and I really, really appreciate you coming through. And that's another episode of Career Currency, y'all. Kareem Perez, Melonie de Guzman. Make sure you tap in. Make sure you take action. Check out the Mentorship Corner. And again, I want to drill this down to all the organizations. Mentorship is a necessity. It's not a nice to have. So now you have no more excuses. You have a plug and play solution that you can implement, and nobody has to volunteer their time. But yes, thank you again, Melanie, for coming through.
Thank you for having me.
And, I'm going to put this out there, but we have to have you back again.
Amazing.
Another time, so I could just get that on the books. But that's it, y'all. Another episode of Career Currency. Kareem Perez taking off. See y'all next time.
You're tuned in to Career Currency with Kareem Perez, a podcast for people who are interested in unlocking their potential and increasing their professional value. Here's your host, Kareem Perez.